I'm Teacher Prix, and I want to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. I've told you guys that I'm from Brazil. I'm from a small town in the countryside of São Paulo state. Now I live in São Paulo, which is a big city. Today, I want to make a comparison between living in the country and living in the city. After that, I will show you how I use comparatives to do that. So if you're new here, hey, please consider subscribing. Every week I post different kinds of videos to help you improve your English skills and become more confident speakers. So here we go. Living in the country has many advantages. For example, it's cheaper than living in the city. The cost of living in the country is definitely lower. Houses and apartments are bigger in the country. Your money can get you bigger houses. Yeah, right now I live in a small apartment in São Paulo. People are friendlier in the country. Yeah, I think because it's a small place. People get together and are more helpful than people in the city. The people in the country are also more patient than the people in the city. Living in the country is also less dangerous. Yeah, definitely better than the city. Now, living in the country has disadvantages too. It's definitely slower than the city. It's also less interesting than the city. Nothing happens. Now, let's think about the city. The city is definitely more interesting than the country. There are many things you can do. You also have more job opportunities than in the country. However, I think people in the city are more stressed than people in the country. The traffic is worse too. I have friends who spend more than 2 hours to get to work. It's horrible. I also believe people in the city are more impatient than people in the country because they don't have much time. But as I said, there are more things to do in the city. The entertainment options are better than the ones in the country. There are two big problems in the city: pollution and safety. The city is more polluted than the country, so that can be very difficult sometimes. It's also more dangerous, so you have to be very careful. So, which one do you prefer? Living in the city or living in the country? Me, I definitely prefer living in the city. Although the city is more polluted and dangerous than the country, there are many things you can do here and more opportunities than in the country. So I think living in the city is better than living in the country. Now, that was an introduction. I used comparatives to talk about living in the city and living in the country. I compared two situations, and that's how we use comparatives in English, to compare different things, to talk about the differences between two or more things. In English, if you want to make comparisons, you can use more or you can use less. Look at this example from the introduction. Living in the city is more dangerous than living in the country. You can also say the opposite. Living in the country is less dangerous than living in the city. So what's the difference between more and less? More, less. So when you make comparisons with more, you're indicating more, okay? Plus, when you're making comparisons with less, not so much, okay? Basically, to make comparisons, you will need more or less plus an adjective. Okay, equality, something you can use to compare. After that, you will use the word then. Okay? For example, living in the city, one situation, living in the city, is more dangerous than living in the country. Okay? Or I can say living in the country is less dangerous than living in the city. So to make comparisons, you need adjectives, you need qualities. beautiful, interesting, dangerous, patient, impatient, polluted, good, and so many other words. Adjectives, words that will give a quality to a noun, okay? Or to something. Let's see more examples from the introduction. The people in the country, I'm talking about the people in the country are more patient than people in the city. Now let's take a look at a different example. Living in the country, the situation 1, living in the country is cheaper than living in the city. So if you paid attention here, I didn't use the word more. This is the first confusion we have when we are learning comparatives. Sometimes you don't use the word more, okay? But in what situations? In English, we have many adjectives, okay? But for this explanation, we will have 2 kinds of adjectives. Long adjectives and short adjectives. Interesting is a long adjective. It has more than 1 syllable. It's long, okay? So in this case, you need to use more. The city is more interesting than the country. Now, the adjective cheap. Priscilla, what is cheap? Cheap is the opposite of expensive, okay? Cheap is a 1-syllable word. It's a short word. So in this case, buy more. No more. But there's a catch. You need to add something to the word. So cheap becomes cheaper. Okay? Fast becomes faster. Tall, taller. So going back to the example, living in the country is cheaper than living in the city. This will happen to all short adjectives, okay? Now, for 2-syllable words that end in Y, okay? For example, easy, happy, friendly, pretty. You will remove the Y, bye-bye, Y, and you will add I-E-R. Prettier, easier, happier. And remember, no more, okay? No more. Now, Priscilla, you talked about more. How about less? Remember less. With the comparative less, you do not use less with short adjectives, only long ones. So if your adjective is short, you cannot use less. You cannot use the comparison less. So you cannot say that it's less easy. No, okay? That's not possible. All right? So with the word less, with the comparative less, you only use long adjectives. This house is less beautiful than that house. Okay? Now let's take a look at another example. I think living in the city is better than living in the country. What is this word better? When we are talking about comparatives, there are some adjectives, there are some words that change completely. Okay? They are irregular cases. So better is the comparative of good. Good, you can't say gooder. No. Okay. No. You have to say better. There are more cases. For example, bad. The comparative of bad is worse. There you go. So this is a basic explanation in context. Now you learn that with comparatives, you compare to different situations or to different things. Okay? So now I have a challenge for you. I want to see here in the comments 3 comparisons between living in the city and living in the country. I want to see your opinion, your examples. Which one do you prefer? Living in the city or living in the country? And then write your comparisons. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed the video and share this video with your friends on your social media, why not? Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you next time.